0 inches heaven surmounting monarch, you have taken a fancy to it. Could it be this kind of power? Profound Emperor stood in the air with a golden light flowing in his eyes. No one knew what expression he had on his face when he was covered by the golden light. Swoosh, swoosh. The fire lotus was carved from jade, and it was a pure gold color. The surface of the fire lotus was rippling like water. At first glance, it looked extremely exquisite, but besides its pure beauty, it was emitting a destructive aura that could cause one's expression to change. Swoosh. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he looked at Xiao Yan. The latter's face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and his breathing was rapid. However, his eyes were extremely calm, and it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. This is the holy arts? The middle-aged man's lips gently wiggled. The origin chi within his body was unleashed without any reservation. In an instant, it had already formed a vast origin chi ocean behind him. It seemed to cover the entire world. The middle-aged man was within the origin chi ocean, and he was just like a god. He took large strides forward, and the origin chi behind him followed closely behind. It was like the roar of a malicious spirit, and it shook the entire world. Holy arts, prison dragon break. Black fierce light surged wildly in the middle-aged man's eyes, and the origin chi wreaked havoc all over his body. The majestic origin chi whistled through the sky, as if it was tearing apart space itself. It formed a black flood dragon behind him. The flood dragon's body was over 1,000 miles long, and it looked like a floating mountain range. The black scales on its body were ferocious, and it looked like a peerless monster that had crawled out from the depths of hell. This is bad. Profound Emperor was startled when he saw the sudden change in the situation. When the monarch cultivation sovereign used the holy arts, its power was enough to shake the entire world. Even if this was the heaven divine mountain, it would still cause a huge commotion. Not to mention Xiao Yan, even a true monarch cultivation would probably die under this attack. Swoosh. Profound Emperor's body moved, and a black and white clear chi emerged in front of him. As his 10 fingers moved, the black and white clear chi quickly condensed like yin and yang. In an instant, it had already turned into a light the size of a millstone. Holy arts. Looking at the mountain-like flood dragon in front of him, the monstrous chi that filled the air was like a roaring ocean. Countless ferocious beasts in the endless forest were trembling. The nightmare beast and the black tiger retreated in panic. As primitive alien creatures, they have an instinctive fear of death. Xiao Yan took a deep breath. A trace of seriousness flashed across his eyes. He was well aware of the power of the fire lotus, but this was the first time he was facing the holy arts. He did not know what kind of power it could unleash. Swoosh. He spread his 5 fingers, and the fire lotus fell down from the sky like a meteor. It streaked across the sky and was swallowed by the flood dragon in front of him. Within the flood dragon's huge body, the fire lotus was like a star in the night sky. One could clearly see that the fire lotus was flickering with a golden light, and it slowly touched the stomach of the flood dragon. Yin-yang descent. Within the golden light, Profound Emperor's figure was graceful, and his curves were even more alluring. With a wave of his hand, the yin-yang descent turned into a beautiful falling flower that fell from the sky. Every falling flower was a beautiful flower, and quietly, it was about to cut the flood dragon into pieces. Boom! The fire lotus quietly bloomed. With a loud bang, the mountain-sized flood dragon let out a miserable cry, and turned into countless origin chis that filled the sky. Like a violent gale, they instantly fell in all directions. Countless huge trees were cut in half at the waist, and then turned into ashes and dissipated. In the blink of an eye, the entire mountain range had become barren. Swoosh! Within the sky filled with origin chis, the fire lotus once again bloomed. It pointed straight at the middle-aged man in front of him. Compared to before, it was clearly much weaker. Bang! The middle-aged man's face slightly twitched. The fire lotuses in his palm overflowed in all directions as he fiercely grabbed the fire lotuses that were rushing towards him. The crimson gold flames lightly trembled, and the crimson gold flames poured down like flowing water before disappearing without a trace. Hu! Xiao Yan shook his head slightly when he saw this. Wave after wave of powerlessness attacked his body. Although he had not injured his opponent, the holy arts that he had used to defeat the monarch cultivation sovereign had already perfectly reached his expectations. The great world was boundless. Although holy skills were as rare as grains of sand in an endless river, they had been passed down since ancient times. Generally speaking, as long as one reached the monarch cultivation, most experts would possess holy skills. The holy arts unleashed by the boundless origin chi was enough to shake the heavens and earth. Holy techniques were divided into 3 levels: holy techniques, and holy arts. The truly rare ones were those saint techniques, not holy arts. Saint techniques, in the endless river of history. Every single one of them was enough to shock an entire era, and those who could grasp these laws. Without a doubt, it was a top expert of an era who was not a saint, thus it was not enough to comprehend it. Compared to the sacred technique, the holy arts was much more ordinary. Every type of holy arts had an arcane spirit. An arcane spirit of this level had intelligence and relatively powerful strength. To the monarch cultivation sovereign, it was enough to be considered a trump card. This also meant that when he faced a monarch cultivation in the future, the Fire Lotus would be his biggest trump card. He could only defeat his opponent's holy arts. If he did not strengthen it, it might become a useless skill. Before he could even finish his thought, a beautiful fragrance fell from the sky like a drizzle. It fluttered on Xiao Yan's body, emitting a sweet fragrance. It was like a rain of flowers, and the petals were in the shape of 5 leaves. It was an extremely beautiful scene. All right, go and recover your strength. I will deal with him. A golden light emerged in front of him. Profound Emperor appeared in front of Xiao Yan. His voice was soft and gentle, making people feel like they were bathing in a spring breeze. Nodding his head, Xiao Yan looked at the graceful figure in front of him with a strange expression. When he remembered that the owner of this body was a ferocious man, his facial expression changed slightly, and he immediately stepped back. The Xiao Ao had already stepped forward to support him. Now, I'll deal with you. The golden light around his body faded away, and Profound Emperor leapt out. He looked exactly like the middle-aged man from before. He had an extraordinary aura, and his imposing manner was overbearing. It doesn't matter. You should know how terrifying a monarch cultivation sovereign's desire to die is. The middle-aged man took a deep breath, and his expression was cold. Although he was slightly shocked by the young man from before. However, he still had the confidence that if he were to act recklessly, the former would have already turned into a cold corpse and wouldn't have the time to prepare that terrifying Fire Lotus. If it was in the past, perhaps it would. But now, it might not be the case. Profound Emperor looked up at the sky and smiled. His expression was calm, and he didn't take the middle-aged man's words seriously at all. Then I will let you recover your memories. The middle-aged man's expression was gloomy. He took a step forward, causing the void to tremble. Origin chi that blotted out the sky and covered the earth rushed out, covering almost half of the sky. The terrifying chi climbed higher and higher until it reached its peak. 6 origin chains flew out from the origin chi, carrying a tremendous force that was about to pierce through the void. Violent aura. You really don't want your life anymore. Profound Emperor's expression became serious. He could feel that this chi contained a source of energy that was being used to forcefully increase his strength at the cost of his blood essence. Amazing! The entire mountain is trembling. The Xiao Ao looked around. The barren mountain range rumbled, as if it couldn't withstand the pressure. Huge rocks kept falling down, and then turned into powder. The source energy in his body circulated, and the situation skill quickly recovered his injuries. Xiao Yan raised his head, and with a thought, he took out the fire Bodhi tree and planted it in front of him. The origin chi here was powerful, and the two of them fought with each other without restraint. As the origin chi rolled, it was crazily absorbed by the fruit on the fire Bodhi tree. Soon, although it was only the height of a person, the fruit on it grew at an astonishing speed, and in an instant, it became full. Yin-yang magic, 10,000 flowing. In the distance, Profound Emperor was walking in the air. Facing the unstoppable aura of the middle-aged man, his expression was calm. He quickly formed seals with his 10 fingers in front of his chest. In an instant, thousands of spiritual voices resounded. The combination of yin and yang origin chis shot into the sky from the top of his head. 2 inches the combination of yin and yang? Xiao Yan was naturally very familiar with the aura of this vast origin chi. He was the origin chi of the combination of yin and yang. He had never thought that Profound Emperor would also possess it. Yin and yang. Xiao Yan mumbled to himself as he looked at Profound Emperor's majestic figure. He seemed to have understood something. No wonder Profound Emperor had the appearance of a man and a woman. When one cultivated the yin and yang skill to the extreme, they would naturally form another clone. However, Xiao Yan did not have such thoughts. It was extremely strange to think that he had turned into a woman. Yin-yang art, myriad flow. Profound Emperor's voice was like a huge bell, as if he was a god that could support heaven and earth. The entire void submitted to him. Endless origin chis hissed and gathered behind him, condensing into visible origin chis that flowed out. Following Profound Emperor's hand seal, 10,000 arrows shot out explosively. The entire sky buzzed and shattered the void. The middle-aged man was like a wooden boat that had sunk into a vast ocean, in danger of capsizing at any time. This is also the holy arts? His aura spread out, and it was full of pressure. Even with the prestige power spell, Xiao Yan still felt a trace of pressure. It was completely different from the holy arts that the middle-aged man had used before. This chi seemed to have penetrated through the heaven and earth. It also had a powerful and imposing aura, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The middle-aged man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The moment Profound Emperor unleashed the holy arts, he had a trace of fear in his heart. The gap between the two of them, who were both monarch cultivation warriors, was not on the same level. Under the endless flow of origin chis that came from all directions, he was actually unable to put up any resistance. Profound Emperor's robe was torn apart, and his eyes were lowered. It was as if a god was looking down on the world. He spread his arms lightly, and his entire body was bathed in golden light. The strength that he displayed shook the void. He's even stronger than Li Xianfeng, Xiao Yan exclaimed in a low voice. He had to admit that Profound Emperor's mastery of the yin-yang fusion origin chi was far superior to his. Although Li Xianfeng was only a clone back then, he was still a heavenly sovereign-level clone. With just his aura alone, Profound Emperor was more than enough to kill him. Kai, a strong sense of death surged in his mind like a tidal wave. The middle-aged man was breathing heavily. He suddenly came back to his senses and bit the tip of his tongue. The blood essence fused into the origin chis around him, and in an instant, his blood and chi were overflowing. It was like a furious roar, and it transformed into numerous origin chi dragons that roared as they charged forward. The giant dragon seemed to have a physical body. The dragon scales on its body were real and ferocious. Each scale carried a suffocating and terrifying aura as it collided with the endless streams of origin chi. The middle-aged man's face was pale, but his eyes were as calm as ever. Ever since he entered this place, he had put his life on the line, even if it meant losing all of his blood essence. It's just a small trick, nothing more than sand to me. Profound Emperor's expression was carefree, as if he had turned a blind eye to the middle-aged man's attack. He strolled leisurely. He took big steps forward. Countless origin chis around him shattered the sky. His ferocious killing intent soared to the sky. Countless origin chi dragons were trapped in it. They kept wailing. The scales on their bodies exploded, but they couldn't hurt Profound Emperor at all. The crimson gold flame in Xiao Yan's eyes surged up. When he fixed his eyes on Profound Emperor, he saw that the black and white clear chi surrounding Profound Emperor's body was moving like yin and yang. It was like an indestructible barrier that couldn't be penetrated by anything. Even if it's not the yin and yang scroll, it's at least a profound and profound cultivation technique. Xiao Yan mumbled to himself. He had cultivated the secret arts on the yin scroll before, so he had a vague understanding of yin and yang. Naturally, he knew how terrifying Profound Emperor's skill was. Boundless origin chis whistled and shook the mountains and rivers. The nightmare beast and the black tiger had already left in a panic. Even though they were primitive alien creature, they were still keeping a secret from the fight between two monarch cultivation warriors. Sizzle sizzle, the fire Bodhi tree in front of him was being nourished by the boundless origin chi. It was growing at a crazy speed. The fruit on it was burning like a flame. Xiao Yan took a deep breath. He could clearly feel the origin chi in his body getting restless. The three types of boundless origin chis were also jumping around. The flames of the Heaven Divine Mountain had a special effect on each monarch flame. It's almost ripening. I need to find a place to restore the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire. Who knows what kind of abnormal changes will occur? Xiao Yan thought to himself. He had never forgotten the vast scene of refining monarch Hai Tianyan recovering in illusory spirit space. Not to mention the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire, the monarch flame near 16 wasn't just a number. Thinking of this, Xiaoyan couldn't help but hesitate. When Elder Yi seized the 1,000 leaves ancient monarch fire, he was already a monarch cultivation, but he was almost dead. With his current strength, could he really refine it completely? Boom! Before Xiaoyan could recover from his shock, in the void far away, Profound Emperor's power was unparalleled. It was as if he had shattered the void. He raised his fist towards the sky, as if he was going to shatter the sky. The boundless origin chi rushed out like a dragon, rushing towards his opponent. Wherever the fist passed, the origin chi would cut off countless origin chi dragons, sweeping across the clear sky and shattering mountains. Puff! The middle-aged man's facial expression changed drastically. Blood essence was spat out as if it was free. Facing Profound Emperor's attack, for the first time, he felt a strong sense of death. Rustle! Rustle! The blood chi merged into the origin chi. It was like the roar of a ferocious ghost. The blood sea rose up, covering the entire horizon. The middle-aged man stood in the blood sea with a ferocious expression. 6 origin chains came out from the blood sea, seeming to be able to shatter the heaven and earth. The heaven and earth howled, and the blood chi soared to the sky. Countless origin chis flowed in reverse, but they were all swallowed by the blood sea. Profound Emperor strode forward. He didn't change his expression when faced with the strongest attack of the middle-aged man. His body was like a dragon as he rushed forward. In an instant, the heaven and earth rumbled. Black and white clear chi tore through the void and an endless amount of chi blasted out. It exploded like a mountain and shattered the boundless blood sea. It hit the middle-aged man's chest without any fancy moves. Boom! The middle-aged man was like a cannonball as he flew backwards, smashing into the endless mountain range in the distance. The mountain rocks exploded and the rumbling continued. It was unknown how many mountain ranges were shattered. Incredible! Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiaoyan couldn't help but feel frightened. Profound Emperor's punch had completely ignored all kinds of monarch cultivation law. The pure yin and yang energy surrounding his body had shattered everything that stood in his way. Compared to his own attack, it was many times stronger. Do you want to learn it? While he was exclaiming, Profound Emperor's voice suddenly sounded in Xiaoyan's ears. Xiaoyan looked over and saw Profound Emperor's calm expression. He had already appeared beside him at some point in time. I heard from Heaven's surmounting monarch that you are also an origin chi that combines yin and yang. However, based on the strength of your control, you are still not on the same level as me. Profound Emperor laughed loudly. His imposing manner was completely different from when he was dealing with the middle-aged man. Senior, please advise me. Upon hearing this, Xiaoyan did not hesitate at all. He hurriedly stood up and cupped his fists before bowing. If his origin chi could be improved to a higher level, his strength would definitely have a breakthrough. There's no rush. Profound Emperor shook his head slightly, then grinned and said, let's wait until I find a place to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain. I don't want to delay any longer. He was confident in his strength, but he didn't want to become enemies with so many monarch cultivation warriors. If someone else came to find him, he wouldn't be able to avoid a bitter battle. What is this? As soon as he finished speaking, Profound Emperor's eyes focused. He looked at the fire Bodhi tree in front of him, and for the first time, his calm face revealed a look of shock. 0 inches it contains the fruit of the Heaven Divine Mountain's mountain fire. Xiaoyan pursed his lips and gave a vague answer. He didn't explain much. As for how Profound Emperor understood it, he didn't know. Mountain fire. Hearing this, a trace of relief appeared between Profound Emperor's brows. He didn't ask any more questions. Heaven Divine Mountain was the ancestor of all mountains in Mingan Divine Domain. The mountain fire contained within was extremely pure. Xiaoyan had the monarch flame, and he had come here to cultivate as a sovereign by using the mountain fire. The flame was within reason. Senior's strength is astonishing, and he is at the prime of his life. Why did he come here to fight for the right to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain? After hesitating for a while, Xiaoyan couldn't help but ask. Whether it was Heaven's surmounting monarch, Profound Emperor, or Black Nether Emperor, they were all at the peak of the capital of chaos. With their abilities, they would definitely step into a higher level in the future. Why did they come here? They only wanted to pursue the future. You know about the rebirth of the ancient sovereign, right? Upon hearing this, Profound Emperor only smiled and suddenly mentioned the rebirth of the ancient sovereign. I was lucky enough to witness it. Xiao Yan sucked in a deep breath. That night when the ancient sovereign was reborn, it had shocked countless people in Heaven Divine Mountain. How could he forget it? Initially, I only wanted to witness the ceremony of the Heaven Divine Mountain's god-worshipping mountain. I was curious about their yin and yang scroll secret arts. After Lei Yuya saw the ancient sovereign who was reborn, he decided to fight for the spot to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain. It's that simple. Profound Emperor sighed as well. He still remembered the scene of the reincarnation of the ancient sovereign. It was hard to imagine how powerful a person could be. The rebirth of the ancient sovereign. After all, it was extremely rare. During those few nights, how many people died during the lightning tribulation? Xiao Yan shook his head lightly and spoke the words that were hidden deep in his heart. Why did he have to hope for the next life? You haven't reached that realm yet, you won't be able to experience it. Profound Emperor's expression turned serious. He had been standing at the peak of the monarch cultivation for several decades, but he had never made a single step forward. Even though he had comprehended the yin-yang profound art, it had only strengthened his strength. He had been stuck at the heavenly sovereign for so many years, and he had sensed something from it. It was also far from what Xiao Yan could understand. Perhaps, just like what Li Xianfeng had said at the Sinful Blood Cliff, there was a place beyond the heavenly Tao that he couldn't see through. This feeling made him more and more aware of how weak he was. If he wanted to walk down another supreme path, he wouldn't be able to accomplish it even if he spent an entire lifetime. He could only entrust his life to his next life. The reborn ancient emperor made this thought even more resolute. Xiao Yan pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. Compared to Profound Emperor, his strength was indeed as weak as dust. Sung Yintang had also said that the heavenly Tao was profound and shouldn't be exaggerated. The rebirth of the ancient sovereign will surely shake the entire great world. All the major powers might change their cards once more. The reason I came here is also to increase my strength. Profound Emperor spoke again, his expression very serious, and no longer seemed like he was laughing. It's the yin and yang scroll? Xiao Yan's heart skipped a beat, and he asked in a soft voice. That's right. The cultivation technique I cultivate is the yin-yang mysterious technique. It is a cultivation technique created by Sacred Lord Yin-Yang, and the Yin and Yang scroll mastered by the Heavenly Sky sect and Deacon sect is a technique created by Sacred Lord Yin-Yang with the help of the real Yin and Yang scroll. There must be some similarities between the two. Profound Emperor nodded, not hiding anything from him. The current great world is full of storms. Ji Yu Wu, the 9 disciples, and the ancient sovereign. All these powers have come into being. There will definitely be a huge change. If you want to protect yourself, you are not strong enough. Sighing, Profound Emperor glanced at Xiao Yan. Although the latter had an astonishing talent, his current strength was too weak. I understand. Xiao Yan nodded and replied. His eyes swept across the fire Bodhi tree in front of him. The flame energy that caused his heart to beat faster and faster became denser and denser. Buzz. Just as he was speaking, the sound of a mountain exploding could be heard from afar. The middle-aged man's entire body was covered in blood as he soared into the sky. His gaze when looking at Profound Emperor was filled with endless fear. What other moves do you have? Just use them. This isn't the strength of a monarch cultivation who will fight to the death. Profound Emperor laughed coldly. He took a large step forward and appeared not far away from the middle-aged man. Although they were both monarch cultivation, the former's strength was sufficient to crush the latter. I apologize for offending you. The middle-aged man's eyes hardened. He clenched his teeth and finally sighed. He spoke in a deep voice. It was true that he was determined to die. However, it would be meaningless if he was unable to obtain a spot to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain even if he risked his life. He really could not imagine just how great the gap between him and this fellow in front of him was. What's your name? Profound Emperor crossed his arms across his chest and swept his gaze across the place. It seemed like everything was under his control. Ji Yu Jingen, the middle-aged man shook his head and said. He had already thought of retreating. He was thinking about how to find the next candidate to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain. It was impossible for everyone who entered this place to be as strong as the person in front of him. Help me do something. If you agree, I will give you this quota. Profound Emperor thought for a moment and then spoke emotionally. He already had a plan in his heart. What is it? Gu Jingen was startled and asked subconsciously. Xiao Yan, who was standing in the distance, was also stunned. He couldn't see through what Profound Emperor was doing. After you get out of here, go and provoke Lu Junyuan and Cheng Yi. Ask them to hunt you down together. Then, you and I will attack together and kill them. Profound Emperor grinned. His words seemed to have sentenced the two of them to death. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan came to a realization. He looked at Profound Emperor with an even weirder expression. This guy really couldn't be judged by common sense. For the sake of the Yin Scroll and the Yang Scroll, he had actually attacked the leaders of the two major powers. All right. Under Profound Emperor's gaze, Gu Jingen didn't ask any more questions. He just nodded his head and agreed. Heavenly Gon Sect and Deacon Sect were both extraordinary powers in Mingan Divine Domain, but he didn't have long to live, so he naturally had nothing to fear. This deal was definitely worth it. Happy. Profound Emperor laughed loudly, then narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Jingen. Then let's have a pleasant cooperation. Of course, you'd better not play any tricks. Otherwise, even if you enter the Heaven Divine Mountain, I will make sure that your chi will never be able to enter this place for the rest of your life. Don't worry. Gu Jingen was expressionless, without the slightest change in his expression. Seeing this, Profound Emperor nodded his head in satisfaction. Lowering his head to look, black and white clear chi surged in his eyes. After a moment, he seemed to have sensed something. Then, he commanded the five of them to form a giant hand made of origin chi. It flipped over a small hill that had almost been flattened. In an instant, a faint rainbow was grabbed by the giant hand and held tightly in the palm. This is the quota to enter the Heaven Divine Mountain? Seeing the red rainbow in the giant hand, Xiao Yan fixed his eyes on it. The rainbow seemed to be condensed from a mysterious chi, and it was filled with a lively chi. Upon closer inspection, he found that it wasn't any different from the luck of the Heaven Divine Mountain. It was extremely mysterious. Profound Emperor smiled and waved his hand. Gu Jingen's calm expression trembled slightly as he hurriedly grabbed the rainbow. The origin chi in his palm whistled and transformed into a grayish stone the size of a longan. Cough. Gu Jingen impatiently spat out his blood essence once again and dripped it onto the grayish stone. At the same time, an obscure soul energy was injected into the grayish stone between his eyebrows. The grayish stone buzzed slightly as if it was sensing the fortune of the Heaven Divine Mountain, causing the heavens and earth to engrave Gu Jingen's aura. After a long while, Gu Jingen finally opened his eyes. A trace of excitement flashed across his face. Immediately, he waved his hand and the gray stone disappeared without a trace. It was unknown where it had gone. Once he died, a strand of his aura would enter the Heaven Divine Mountain. The gray stone would grow rapidly and the day it would turn into a huge mountain would be the day he would be reborn. Swoosh! The fire Bodhi tree in front of him suddenly shook. After being nourished by the endless origin cheese, it had finally completely matured. The fruits on it were like clusters of flames that emitted a soul-stirring strength. The chi of the ripe fire Bodhi tree fruit spread out in an instant, naturally attracting the attention of Profound Emperor and Profound Emperor. When Profound Emperor sensed the chi of fire that was extremely compatible with the Heaven Divine Mountain, he pondered for a moment and didn't say anything. Gu Jingen frowned. The aura of death lingered between his brows. He only took a glance before withdrawing his gaze. His wish to come here had already been fulfilled. Other things were no longer attractive to him. Boom! All of a sudden, the sound of mountains collapsing resounded from all directions. In front of him, the huge nightmare beast was crazily rushing towards Xiao Yan. It trampled across the entire forest. Its huge body even blocked the sunlight. Wherever it passed, nothing was left. Evil creature. Profound Emperor's eyes turned cold. He had also seen through the intention of the nightmare beast's sudden appearance. Naturally, he would not allow the latter to be so presumptuous. This is bad. I'm afraid that we will attract countless ferocious beasts if we stay here. The Xiao Ao was the first to react. Its small face was pale. The place where the two of them were at could be said to be the center of the Heaven Divine Mountain. There were countless number of primitive alien creatures. Who knew how many powerful and ferocious individuals were hidden here? Clang! The Xiao Ao's voice had just sounded when a metal clanging sound came from afar. A small mountain-sized golden-winged pung bird soared through the sky. It extended its wings and blotted out the sky. It seemed to have cut through the sky as it rushed over in a lightning-like manner. Another primitive alien creature. The thickness of the primeval bloodline within this fellow's body is terrifying. When he clearly saw the appearance of the golden-winged pung bird, the Xiaoao raised its brows and spoke weakly. This big fellow's strength was definitely not weaker than the nightmare beast. Dong! 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 The ground trembled like an earthquake. The nightmare beast's wildly rushing figure could not help but stop. Its blood-red eyes looked into the distance. The golden-winged pung bird in the sky let out a sharp cry. The sound was so loud that it almost pierced through one's eardrums. Its huge wings created gusts of wild wind, stopping the huge body that was rushing over. In the distant mountains, a fiery red figure walked out from the mountains. As soon as it appeared, the two red lights were like sharp lights that could shatter the heaven and earth. When they were targeted, even Profound Emperor felt as if the red lights were on his back. What is it? Xiao Yan's face twitched slightly. He had already started circulating the prestige power spell to resist this suffocating aura. The red figure was almost as tall as the mountain range. The nightmare beast in front of him was just like a child. With a single step, he had already leapt dozens of miles. The distance between them was instantly flattened. Only now did everyone see the former's face clearly. The person who had just arrived stood up. His head was wrapped by fiery red fur, and it was as if flames were lingering around it. His eyes were like a scorching sun, causing people to not dare look at him directly. His face was like that of a monkey, and all the fur on his body had almost shed off. He was undoubtedly a human. What ferocious beast is this? Xiao Yan was startled, and he couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He initially thought that the nightmare beast was terrifying enough, but the mysterious ferocious beast that suddenly appeared had an even more terrifying aura. Weeping Soul Beast. Profound Emperor stood in the void. For the first time, an unprecedented solemnness emerged in his eyes. He muttered to himself. As one of the leaders of Capital of Chaos, during the period of time when he had reached an agreement with the Mercenary Alliance's Alliance Master, Ni Xuankang, he had also gone to the headquarters of the Mercenary Alliance. Where was it? This was the first time he had seen this legendary ferocious beast. Of course, what he saw wasn't the Weeping Soul Beast itself, but a detailed introduction of the former. There was a practitioner who specialized in witchcraft in the ancient spirit domain. He obtained the blood of 10,000 ghost apes to cultivate his body. When he was old, the blood moon hung high in the sky, and it transformed into a human-bodied ferocious beast that looked like the body of an ape beast. It was like the long hiss of a ghost as it roared towards the moon. Its voice could shake the soul and escape into the darkness of the night. It was also called the Weeping Soul Beast. This was a legend about the Weeping Soul Beast. When one looked at it, they would unconsciously feel a chill run down their spines. This kind of legendary ferocious beast actually appeared here. Be careful, this is a Weeping Soul Beast. Don't listen to its voice, or your soul will be injured. The Xiaoao sucked in a breath of cold air and anxiously whispered into Xiao Yan's ear. He had also recognized the identity of the monster in front of him. Xiao Yan nodded his head. The Weeping Soul Beast in front of him was like a huge mountain. Just by standing there, it gave off an unparalleled aura. Even the nightmare beast and golden-winged pung bird hesitated and did not dare to step forward. Swoosh! Before he could finish his thought, the Weeping Soul Beast in front of him suddenly shrunk. In an instant, it became the size of a normal human. Looking from afar, it was no different from a human. As expected, the legendary Weeping Soul Beast was formed in the late years of the spirit domain's Magi. Now it seems that it is somewhat similar. Profound Emperor's expression was solemn. He looked up and saw that the Weeping Soul Beast's face was full of wrinkles like an ape's. The red fur was thick, and the black fur covered its entire body. Looking at it, it was almost exactly the same as the old and weak old man. Squeak! Before anyone could react, the Weeping Soul Beast suddenly faced the sky and let out a long roar. The sound was like a cat's paw scratching on glass, causing people's hearts to tremble. The sound waves were sent out. Without a sound, it directly turned the surrounding mountain peaks into dust. Woo! Even though his soul power had been tempered by the prestige power spell, Xiao Yan still felt a tightness in his chest. It was as if his head had been hit by a wooden stick. The dizziness didn't stop. There was actually blood flowing out from his ears. A pain that came from the depths of his soul instantly spread throughout his entire body. Crack! Profound Emperor's expression shook. He sensed a reaction the moment the weeping soul beast spoke. The origin chi in his palms surged wildly. Black and white clear airflow circulated and seemed to have transformed into an invisible barrier that completely protected him. Puff! The next moment, the sound wave invaded. The void shook and the empty barrier seemed to have shattered in an instant. Profound Emperor's expression changed. His body couldn't help but tremble, and blood also flowed out of his ears. The black and white clear chi in front of him had become much dimmer. Jiyu Jingen did not have the slightest reaction. Following the ripple of the weeping soul beast sound, the former's head suddenly buzzed. It was as though it had exploded. Everything before his eyes turned black, and he had completely fainted. He fell straight down, smashing a deep pit into the ground. Only after the sound had completely disappeared did the weeping soul beast finally lower its head, as if it had not had enough. It looked at the few people in front of it. A bloodthirsty killing intent surged into its eyes, which were burning like the scorching sun. After which, it looked at the fire Bodhi tree in front of Xiaoyan. The flame fruit on it was curled up, and it was filled with a shocking aura. Xiaoyan, can you use that fire lotus again? Without caring about Jiyu Jingen's life or death, Profound Emperor appeared next to Xiaoyan, gritted his teeth, and said in a deep voice. It will take some time. Xiaoyan pursed his lips. He didn't know what Profound Emperor was planning. He looked at the fire Bodhi tree in front of him and said, if I can absorb all of these, I should be able to absorb them faster. All right, I'll hold it back for now. You go and prepare. Hearing this, Profound Emperor patted Xiaoyan's shoulder and said with a serious expression, I've read about the weeping soul beast in Mercenary Alliance. The flame has a great suppressive effect on it. That fire lotus was condensed from monarch flame, right? If I use my full strength again, even if I can't kill it, I can still make it escape. After saying that, Profound Emperor's 10 fingers quickly formed a seal. In an instant, a golden light emerged from his body. A female figure that was formed from white clear chi rushed out from his body and faced the nightmare beast and the golden-winged pung bird in the distance. She had already rushed towards the weeping soul beast, and her figure was faintly discernible. Her whereabouts were unknown. Let's go. This time, no matter what, we must absorb the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire. Xiaoyan suddenly gritted his teeth, and a trace of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. He grabbed the fire Bodhi tree in front of him and left the place. The Xiaoao smiled bitterly, and followed closely behind. This time, it had forced the few of them to the edge of the cliff. Tu Hua! Profound Emperor's body was like a sudden clap of thunder as he appeared beside the weeping soul beast in an instant. His 5 fingers formed a claw that seemed to possess the strength to shatter mountains and split the earth as he smashed towards the latter's head. The force whistled and even the space trembled slightly. The weeping soul beast's body was as swift as a spiritual monkey. It was not any weaker than Profound Emperor. It flashed past and extended its sharp claws. A blood glow surged and was about to pierce through Profound Emperor's chest. Kai! A golden light emerged in Profound Emperor's eyes. A black and white cyclone appeared in front of him, and his eardrums were covered with thick origin cheese. He was trying to prevent the weeping soul beast from making any noise. At the same time, he put his fingers together, and the origin chi whistled and broke through the weeping soul beast's deadly attack. We can't waste any more time. Profound Emperor's expression was grave. His peripheral vision swept across the distance. Xiaoyan had already found a remote place. It was likely that he had already begun to devour the flame fruit. When he had fought with Jiyu Jingen earlier, he had displayed the holy arts in order to intimidate the latter. Now that he had transformed into a yin-yang clone and was fighting 3 primitive alien creatures at the same time, the pressure on him had increased significantly. This was especially the case for the weeping soul beast in front of him. If he was not careful, his soul might be shattered and he would die. Swoosh! On the other side, her graceful figure was enveloped by a golden light. Profound Emperor's body was as light as a swallow as he faced the nightmare beast and golden-winged pung bird. He was no longer as relaxed as when he fought Jiyu Jingen earlier. With a wave of his hand, the sky was filled with golden light that shook the void. The golden-winged pung bird and nightmare beast were both powerful existences. Every one of them was the overlord of a region in the outside world. no matter how powerful Profound Emperor was. Hong Long, Xiao Ao, help me take a look around. Under a remote cliff, dozens of miles away from where Profound Emperor and the three primitive alien creatures were fighting, they could still hear the deafening sound of explosions. Xiao Yan took a deep breath and took a deep breath. He said with a solemn expression, "All right, you have to be careful." The Xiao Ao nodded its head. There was a helpless expression on his face. The scene of Xiao Yan devouring refining monarch Hai Tianyan in illusory spirit space was still vivid in his mind. The torture he suffered was unimaginable. This time, he was preparing to restore the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire and devour it. It was unknown how difficult it would be to rely on Xiao Yan alone. Xiao Yan took a deep breath and nodded his head heavily. He naturally knew how difficult it would be this time, if not for the fact that he had been forced to this extent. He wouldn't have started devouring so hastily, but the current situation. He was no longer allowed to find a safer place. As the fire Bodhi tree fruit fully matured, the nightmare beasts, golden-winged pung birds, and even the weeping soul beasts that were the overlords of the Heaven Divine Mountain appeared one after another. For the sake of today's plan, they could only take advantage of Profound Emperor's time to stall them. They would absorb it first. "Thank you, teacher," Xiao Yan said in his heart. He did not hesitate anymore. With a flip of his wrist, a rusty black ring appeared in his palm. It was the storage ring Elder Yi left behind. Xiao Yan regarded this thing as the most important treasure. With a thought, a brown pill landed on Xiao Yan's hand. Unlike other medicine pills, this almost transparent pill was filled with an indescribable feeling. Looking carefully, between the pills, there's a leaf print the size of a fingernail. What was sealed within the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fires was the Emperor fire source. Unlike refining monarch Hai Tianyan, the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire suffered greater damage and couldn't even condense into a flame. Elder Yi could only use his means to store it within the pill. Only then did he manage to keep a trace of the sovereign fire source. The damage is so serious. I wonder if it can be recovered. He glanced at the fire Bodhi tree in front of him. The dozens of fruits on it were burning like flames. Xiao Yan took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and plucked a flaming fruit from the tree. The flames were illusory, and did not seem to burn at all. Xiao Yan held his breath and focused his mind. He gently opened the pill from the tip of his finger. In an instant, the pill rushed into the flaming fruit in Xiao Yan's hand like a cheetah that had smelled something fishy. Buzz! The moment the pill entered the fiery fruit, it exploded like a mountain rock. The fiery fruit also cracked open. The brown flame instantly soared into the sky. In a trance, it was like an ancient Bodhi tree that grew in the sky, bringing with it a vast and ancient feeling. Xiao Yan's expression changed. Suddenly, he had a special feeling, and his mind felt refreshed. Poochie! A crisp sound was heard. The pill had already shattered. The fingernail-sized leaf slowly rose in the sea of fire, like the center of a whirlpool. Endless flames surged into it. It's effective. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but feel delighted. The flame fruit on the fire Bodhi tree contained the true mountain fire of Heaven Divine Mountain. As the ancestor of all the mountains in Mingan Divine Domain, the mountain fire naturally couldn't be compared to ordinary flames. This kind of flame, for the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire, it was undoubtedly the best recovery material. Sizzle sizzle, the brown flame kept burning. Xiao Yan's expression was exceptionally focused. He stared at the crystal-clear leaf in the flame. Under the nourishment of the mountain fire, it recovered at an astonishing speed. Not long after, he had already absorbed half of the mountain fire contained in the flame fruit. As for the leaf was like a maple leaf, extremely gorgeous. The color became darker and darker. Unknowingly, the three types of flames in Xiao Yan's body became restless. The fire Bodhi tree is indeed worthy of being an ancient tree that existed at the birth of the Mingan Divine Domain. Even a broken branch is so terrifying. God knows what kind of power the fire Bodhi tree has. After calming down, Xiao Yan couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. Then, he thought of Shen Shuiwei. What kind of background did this guy have? He was able to easily grasp the illusionist old man's saint weapon and even had a branch of the fire Bodhi tree. Boom! Just as he was lost in his thoughts, a loud sound that shook the mountains and rivers came from afar. There was even a long roar of the weeping soul beast mixed within. Xiao Yan's expression changed and he hurriedly withdrew his mind. The Xiao beside him leapt up. Its purple eyes looked into the distance and its expression immediately changed as it said, "Oh no, profound Emperor is injured." Xiao Yan clenched his teeth when he heard this. He did not dare to be distracted any longer. He focused all of his attention on the rising flame in front of him. It seemed to have transformed into a giant tree that could hold up the sky. A huge canopy covered the entire area. The maple leaf was on top of the treetop. It was like a supreme ruler that received the worship of the flame. "It's done." A bright light flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes. He stood up with a loud bang. 3 types of monarch flames surrounded his body. He leapt up and charged into the flame. He waved his large hand and the crimson gold flame whizzed out like a fire dragon. The huge body of the fire dragon was covered with golden and blue flames. Clearly, it was the combination of the 3 types of monarch flames. The 1,000 Leaves Ancient Monarch Fire was ranked 16th. It was extremely difficult to devour it. Devour. Xiao Yan's expression was solemn. The Chaos Great Monarch Flame was the primary weapon, and the 3,000 Lightning Monarch Flames were the secondary weapon. In an instant, it was as if a great sovereign was flying in the sky. He waved the lightning scepter in his hand, and endless waves flowed behind his back. Xiao Yan stood in the middle, and his soul power was unleashed to the maximum. He waved his hand, and it seemed as if he was going to grab the leaf in front of him. Buzz! Before the flaming hand arrived, the maple leaf suddenly shook. Like a burning flame, it instantly enveloped the entire horizon. In a trance, the scenery in front of him completely disappeared. When Xiao Yan saw everything in front of him once again, the surroundings were boundless. There was only a Bodhi ancient tree that was growing in front of him. It was incomparably thick and sturdy. The trunk of the tree stretched as far as the eye could see, and it was boundlessly vast. It seemed to lead to the heavens beyond the heavens. Xiao Yan stood in front of it. He was as tiny as a mustard seed.